Hi everyone, Internet TCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Orbital by Samantha Harvey. About a week ago, I read James by Percival Everett, which is not only one of the coolest names for an author I've ever heard, but also the best book I read this year. It's a retelling of Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn through the lens of James, the slave mind character from that story, and in this retelling, he and all the other slaves can actually speak with American neutral accent English, but they don't do it in front of the white people for good reason. It's a really good dark comedy, but on the Booker Prize, it only went as far as being shortlisted, or for normal people, it means it only goes as far as the semi-final despite how good it is. So I was wondering how good is the book that won the Booker Prize, which is why I have this book, because it won the Booker Prize for 2024, because I wanted to see how it win over James. The story starts on a spacecraft, rotating above Earth. Inside, all the crew are sleeping on their sleeping bags and you can see remnants from their dinner in the galley. Dirty forks secured by magnet, chopstick also secured in pouches on the wall. It's no one's birthday, but there are some balloons that said happy birthday floating around from their celebration last night. Outside, you can see Earth and the moon glow its head as it forces onward to infinity. You can see the Pacific, South America, and the trade winds and warm waters are starting to form a storm moving towards southern Asia. Like inside the craft, there are 6 people who have been shot away from Earth into their current existence that is lacking in gravity, 4 astronauts, America, Japanese, British, Italian, and 2 cosmonauts, both Russian. 2 women, 4 men living inside one space station with 17 connecting modules. Like many astronauts that came before them, they will live here for 9 months together. 9 months floating around these steel gates like sardines, 9 months of floating round and around the Earth as it sleeps and wakes and tells its countless story. The first to wake up at 4:15 is the crew named Roman. This is his second in a row mission and he has been away from Earth for a total of 434 days. He went to the lab window to check their position. It's above Johannesburg and Pretoria, Central and East Africa, and since this is space where day and night become a blur, the lonely loner went back to his quarter to add the 88 lines on a piece of paper, indicating that this is the 88 days on their mission. And on this new day, they will circle the Earth 16 times. That's 16 sunrises and 16 sunsets, 16 days and nights. They'll experience 5 continents, autumn and spring, glacier and desert, wilderness and war zones. On the opposite side of the view of Earth, there is the moon, not above them, but just beside them. Sean, another crew of the ship, said that it reminds him of the painting of Las Meninas, where within all the other people in the painting busy with their thing, the painter Velasquez is staring at us as we are looking at the painting. And remembering that painting also always reminds Sean of his wife because that was their first real interaction at school many years before they were married. As it's already 6 and the others should be awake by now, Roman climbs out of his sleeping bag and into his running gear to go get some coffee and head to the gym. He peeked at the window again to see that they are now heading to Karachi, Pakistan. Last Friday, one of the crew, Jie, got the news that her mother has died and since she has lost her father a decade ago, she's now a space orphan. 2 crew members, Pietro and Nell, try to comfort her, but as much comfort as they can because they don't know what it feels like to lose someone to grieve while they were orbiting Earth, while they were looking at Earth. Since that day, the way they look at Earth has slightly changed. It is a place that is so full of life, life-giving, life-sustaining. It is Mother Earth after all, the only ties they have toward life, and the only mother that they have now. All of them are now at the gym. For 2 hours they will work out in this limited artificial gravity they have, so their bodies doesn't dissipate during the next 22 hours of microgravity. They are all usually logged in with their headsets, since there are no outdoor things that make workouts more bearable inside the spacecraft, and while weightlessness gives them comfort like no other, they have to fight the urge to not do the daily 2 hours exercise since without it, their muscle and bones will atrophy too much for them to re-enter the atmosphere. They'll fall like a piece of paper unable to withstand the force going through their body, breaking everything like there's no resistance to them. But despite the harshness they have to endure on the daily inside the space station, all of them have experienced what they call being ambushed by happiness. Sometimes even by the littlest thing, from eating a pack of risotto to even going inside the claustrophobic spacesuit. So much so that it made them feel like they can just stay there, never going back to Earth since it feels like a thing separate from them. I mean, back down there, there were political maneuvering that even tried to enforce the crew to separate between Russian toilet and US, European, Japan toilet. What sense does this do when they were all a unit at the space station who drinks everyone recycled pee and breathe everyone recycled breath? When every time they see through the window to Earth and play what continent it is, borders always seems meaningless when they took the largest literal step back and look at Earth from way further than us. As they experience 16 days and nights every 24 hours, the daily struggle on Earth seems like another life away. They are now floating above Japan, where Chie came from, and if she were to just stay here, she never has to face the reality back on Earth where her mother is no longer there. But when they went for breakfast, the crew did talk about what they miss about on Earth. Mundane things like how the space station would look much better if it is decorated like a house instead of steel panels all around. Then they are all busy with the routine of work. Pietro will go monitor his microbes, she will grow her protein crystal, then attach herself to the MRI for the many routine brain scans to see the impact of microgravity on their neural function. Sean will monitor his telecrash to learn how to grow plants in space. Chie and Nell will then check 40 of the residents' minds to learn more about the muscle wastage on space. Then Sean and Nell will experiment about flammability in space, while Roman and Anton will service the oxygen generator and culture hard shell before Anton goes to water his cabbage and dwarf wheat. They all then gather to report if they have any space headaches, where and how painful, before they all bring their cameras to the Earth viewing window to take picture of designated location that has been given to them, especially when there's a special interest area. These are all while they still need to change smoke detectors, change water supply tank in slot 2, install a new one in slot 3 of the water storage system, clean bathroom, clean kitchen, fix the space toilet that always break, and many others. And today one of those special interests just popped in. Is the typhoon mentioned earlier that is heading towards Indonesia and Philippines. Right now they cannot see it, but if they orbit 2 more times around Earth, they should be able to monitor them for a while. Earlier that day, Nell received an email from her brother that he had a flu, something that she can relate in space where she never even had body pain. The only pain is the occasional space headache, and it's hard to relate to anyone on Earth when she returns. In space, small things are too mundane and the rest is too astounding, too out there for anyone to relate. There's no in between. The only thing they have while they're orbiting up there is each other, and while they have to be extra careful not to encroach on anyone else with them, they do end up becoming somewhat of a unit that each have their own role in the unit outside of their job there. It's the nature of how they live there, how lonely it is, and how intensely more dangerous everything in space is, how much they rely on the life support machine giving surrounding them. Much like Chia's parents, whose life has to end as time goes on regardless of their will, of how much the mother wanted to wait for her daughter to come back before she is gone anyway. The story mixes between what life and work is like in space station, how muscle they create, how even the muscle of their heart weakening and shrinking just by living there, what kind of work they do and how they do it in the studious details, and then it contrasts them with these tender moments about how fragile and small and precious life is, written in the best way possible. It's space, life, and poetry. There won't be any action because it is just the 24 hours and 16 orbit that the crew went through, but at the same time, since they're circling the Earth 16 times, so much is happening, especially when they are aware of the long history that formed if not Earth then at least humanity, and the much longer history without man's existence on the planet. It shows how space and its vastness of emptiness can make us feel so small yet so grand. How even if we are not so alone, the Voyager probe that we send in the hope of a response might only get a response in millions and billions of years later. Nothing to do with the current us. How contrastingly hopeful it is between how space is such a deadly space like everything I mentioned in my video on the book Is It Possible for Mars to be Habitable? And how much Earth is such a homey space despite everything that is awful in it because of us. But still we dream of going there one day, at least a lot of us are, and that's orbital. As a story, I still prefer James, if only because it is a much more conventional storytelling where there's a clear progression to the story. Orbital is a much more experimental in its storytelling, but it nails everything down to a T. It's just as a story, there's not much of a story, but it's just as a story, there's not much of a story. If It's just as a story, there's not much of a story. But if after hearing how I describe the book interests you, this might be the niche thing that you want to enjoy. I give this a 4.25. What do you think? Let me know if I missed anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.